After almost 10 years of being a drone pilot, I've got to say hands down, this is the best all-around drone that I've ever flown. So I've been flying the Mavic 4 Pro for a couple months now, both recreationally and commercially for professional gigs. And this thing's a beast. I've been loving it. There's a lot of great things that I want to share about this drone. The image quality, dynamic range, dual native ISO. There's so many things going on with this, and it feels like it's perfect. Almost. But we'll unpack that later. The all-new design of the Mavic 4 Pro looks and feels premium, which is what you'd expect from a drone that retails for over $5,000 at most stores in the US. It's all in the small details, like the engraving on the bottom of the drone and the high-end finish that give it a much more premium feel than the other models. Paired with the RC Pro 2 controller, this thing's unstoppable. The controller powers on instantly when you open up the screen, and the sticks will pop up automatically. It means no more screwing them in, and no more worrying about losing them in your bag. The main camera is a 4/3 Hasselblad sensor with a variable f2 to f11 aperture. You also get true 10-bit color and a dual native ISO for better low-light performance. This sensor produces the best image I've ever seen coming out of a foldable drone. The second camera on the Mavic 4 Pro is a 70mm telephoto lens. It has a 1/1.3 inch sensor and a fixed f2.8 aperture. It can't do 6K, but it does a killer 4K 120 FPS. This lens has been my go-to for action shots because of the compression and reach without giving up too much quality. Finally, moving on to the long telephoto lens. I really like it because it opens up a whole new world of parallax shots on video and perspectives that you just can't get in other lenses. On the photo side of things, the main camera shoots 100 megapixels. Not quite. So it really natively shoots 25 megapixels, but in camera it's just upscaling it using a quad Bayer sensor shifting trick. It looks the same. You can't tell the difference. But don't get me wrong, this camera is amazing. It performs very well. It's everything I could ask for in a drone camera. Great quality, great dynamic range, all the good stuff. Take this panorama, for example. I stitched a couple 25 megapixel images together to get a 143 megapixel result. You can punch in on this photo and literally see a house that you couldn't see with your naked eye. Like, it's insane. It does a really good job. I just have a bone to pick with the quote-unquote 100 megapixel claim. On the video side of things, DJI finally upped their game and moved D-Log to all 3 lenses. The main lens was the only one in the Mavic 3 Pro that had D-Log. So what does this mean? It means consistent color and dynamic range across the board, which makes your life a whole lot easier color grading in post. The Mavic 4 Pro also features a dual native ISO at 400 and 1600 in D-Log, which is super helpful for filmmaking in those low light conditions. We also have subject tracking across all lenses. If you get the creator combo, you get the option for all I, which stands for all intra, a 1400 megabit per second bitrate codec. It's awesome. It retains a lot of data. It's great for commercial shoots where you really need that latitude and ability to grade it, but I don't really find myself using it that much on a day-to-day basis. In day-to-day shoots, I find that H.265 or H.264 is just plenty. It's definitely nice to have if you're looking to do some more documentary level stuff. So on the ground, I use an FX3 and a Sony A1, which have extremely fast readout speeds at 8.3 milliseconds, and it's on par almost with a global shutter sensor. When I first did a whip pan with this thing, I almost threw up in my mouth. Like, it was horrible. Not really many instances in which I'm doing a whip pan, so it's not really applicable here. So this drone comes with an infinity gimbal that rotates over 360 degrees, but infinity, so the gimbal is actually limited from negative 40 degrees to plus 400 degrees. Now, don't get me wrong, that's still a ton of range, but don't call it an infinity gimbal if it's not gonna actually truly rotate infinite times. Here's a clip from when I first got the drone and was doing some kind of, creative movements with it. It came out pretty sick, like, it's cool. I just don't use it that much. These days, the only time that I'm really using the rotation of the gimbal is to switch between vertical and horizontal shooting. It's something that's interesting on paper, but It's not really something that I'm finding myself using from day to day. So the Mavic 4 Pro is shipping with a 95 watt-hour battery, which is just bonkers. Most of my small rig V-mount batteries are 99 watt-hours, so having that in a drone is just like, say less. Perfect. Now I'm filming water sports and action sports a lot, which means that there's going to be windy conditions present. And in those windy conditions on the Air 2S, I'd be pushing like 10 minutes on battery time if I'm lucky. With the Mavic 4 Pro, it's a completely different story. In windy conditions, I can comfortably push this thing 30 minutes, no problem. And in ideal conditions, I've gotten flights past 40 minutes. Now DJI advertises up to 51 minutes of battery life, which, you know, I'm not finding anywhere near that, which is fine. But what matters is I can finally stay up long enough to get my shots without stressing about the battery every 10 seconds. With the Creator Combo, you get a super fast charging experience with a parallel charger that charges all your batteries super quickly. I think they're quoted at 90 minutes or something like that for all 3 batteries to be charged. At a recent shoot, I literally kept the drone in the air for 7 hours with no downtime beyond swapping batteries. That's literally career changing compared to what I was used to with the smaller drones. No negative feedback here, the battery's everything I could ask for. If there's one thing that I could wish for with this drone, it's that I'd have the same versatility shooting vertically that I have horizontally. I mean, this thing's sick horizontally. It shoots like 70 degrees upwards, 90 degrees straight down. You know, you've got almost full 180 of vertical tilt. So the gimbal's super limited in the amount of range that it has when it's filming in vertical mode. So when you first enter vertical mode, you'll be greeted with this message that essentially says your drone's gonna find a happy medium between flying slowly and putting the gimbal where you want it. And when I put the drone in sports mode, I find that I'm only getting like 10, 11 miles an hour out of this thing, which for a drone that's rated to fly 60 miles an hour really sucks. You end up in this weird flight mode where you can't really push the drone too hard and you're very limited in the amount of things that you can do vertically. Now, I'm not an engineer. I'm not sure why they went with this design. And I find that in real world scenarios, I'm only allowed about maybe +2 upwards and -10, 11 downwards, which really isn't great when you're trying to get shots of something that's moving downwards in relation to your drone. This thing's packed with tech, right? And one thing that I really wish it had was variable aperture across all 3 lenses. In pro mode, when you switch between the lenses, you have to manually adjust the shutter speed, ISO, everything. So I'll be shooting on the main camera at f11, 1/60, ISO maybe 400. And then I pop over to the next lens and it's completely blown out or underexposed. And it's just super frustrating trying to match all that. The nature of my work is very fast-paced action, and I don't have the time really to sit there and switch constantly between things as the lighting adjusts. So it'd be really helpful to have a variable aperture on there to just, you know, switch it between each of those scenarios. So in theory, who is this drone even for? If you're a professional creator, filmmaker, real estate videographer, etc., and you need really long flight times, consistent D-log across all 3 cameras, this drone's for you. If you're more of a hobbyist, maybe stick with something smaller or cheaper like the Air 3S, or even if you want to go downwards to the Mini 4 Pro, that's even a good option. If you really need ProRes RAW, you know, a full frame camera look, step up to the Inspire 3 or even just get a Cinelifter at that point. But for most working creators and filmmaking professionals who need a foldable drone that provides uncompromised quality with really good battery life and the other features that I spoke about, this thing pretty much checks all the boxes. So in the end, it all boils down to, is this the perfect drone? No, but for the right pilot, it's absolutely worth it. You know, it gets you 90% of the way there to perfection, but as with anything, nothing's perfect, so take it for what it is, an absolute beast, and, you know, it does 90% of the stuff that you want it to. So, yeah, that's all.